You've got very bad manners. You don't know what superb etiquette is. You are disrespectful. They were three things that I was brought up with as a little girl that were either you didn't want to be that person, or you were constantly reminded about it's very important to have good manners, it's very important to understand what superb etiquette is, and it's very important to be a respectful person. So I'm out here with my kids who are on a regular basis. My dogs are disciplined to have good manners. So if they want something to eat, they have to sit and shake. If it's time to go outside, they have to go outside. We don't argue about that, they just go outside. They're not allowed to jump, they need to eat their food when it's okay or the right time to eat their food. It's called discipline, and I've obviously had dogs for a very long time. But one of the biggest things that dog trainers have always shared with me is that a great dog has this life in this order: discipline, exercise, food, and love. And if a dog gets those things, and you can put them in a different order, but most dog trainers have shared with me that discipline is the most important. If you have an undisciplined dog, and if you ever see a naughty dog, it's very likely that they don't have a very good owner because the owner hasn't trained them well. Could the same thing be said about parents? If there's a naughty child, technically not the child's fault because perhaps they don't know. So that's my question. Are we still teaching people to have good manners? Are we teaching people what superb etiquette is? Are we teaching little humans that when they grow up to be adults, they need to have respect for everybody? And I always talk about respect for three things. Respect for yourself, which of course means you'll be healthy, fit and strong. You'll have a career or business that you love. You'll be financially free and you'll have great people in your life. To me, that is the ultimate self-respect, and that's what I talk about every day. You'll have respect for other people because regardless of the differences between you and somebody else, that is another person, it's another human being. And then what about respect for your environment? So I'm constantly looking at graffiti or rubbish on the ground, or things are disorganised and messy. And I find that really sad, of course, because it shows that people are being disrespectful of their environment. But who's teaching that stuff? So as an old lady, I just observe now. I would never say to somebody, you've got very bad manners, or you've got no etiquette, or you're disrespectful, because I understand that when you tell somebody what to do, if you try and teach somebody, most people who either don't know or they do know but they're not doing it become very defensive. So there's a big question to be asked there. Could it be, or should we be as adults, the living example of good manners and respect? If you're as old as I am, you will know what that is. And then are we teaching that via our living example? And if not, who is actually teaching it? And I don't think there's anybody, because I go out in the world quite regularly. I meet lots of different people from different countries. And it seems that there's a few things missing. Now, it doesn't matter, of course, because you can live your life exactly the way you want to. But my question is, are there consequences to bad manners, bad etiquette, and being disrespectful? I'll just give you a simple example. I've been out for dinner with a table full of people of different ages. So small children, teenagers, young adults, so 20 to 25s, and then more mature people, so over 50 and over 60. And it seems now very acceptable and normal to bring your phone to dinner. So I'm going to use that as a very interesting example of etiquette. If you get invited to a wedding or a birthday party, a special event, and you're invited and somebody else is invited with you, it might be you and bring a friend. But they didn't say you're invited and bring your entire group of friends with you because we're going to let them interrupt our party. But when you go out for dinner and you bring your phone and your entire contact list is in your phone, and you are constantly looking at your phone, you're constantly texting on your phone, you're constantly even communicating in whatever way, shape or form, or you might just be scrolling through social media, which is what happened at the dinner that I went to. How does that make the people at the table feel? Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody where they're not looking at you, they're looking over your shoulder to see if there's somebody better to talk to, or they're just not paying attention to what you've got to say because they've got something going on in their mind, or they're looking at their phone? So you can do all of that, I get that. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. But my question is, do you want the people in your life to feel loved? Do you want them to know that you love them, that you appreciate them, and I think even more importantly, that you respect them? So if I'm having a personal conversation with somebody, I look them in the eye, lean forward, maintain eye contact, open body language, and actively listen. Now, the reason I can rattle that off is I was taught that at a very young age. Maintain eye contact, open body language, lean forward, and actively listen, because that's what superb communication is. It's the etiquette of conversation. If I don't do that, if I cross my arms, if I'm looking away, if I don't pay attention, how does that make the person feel? And if you're in a personal relationship, particularly if you've got a partner and you don't lean forward, maintain eye contact, open up your body language and actively listen, you'll probably end up in an argument. So is it about having good manners? Should they matter? Is it about superb etiquette? You know, what shoes should I wear, or should I wear my hat inside, or should I say please or thank you, or which fork to use? Because they're the things that people say to me. Not important anymore, Rowie. So many people don't even know how to use a knife and fork anymore. We have a lot of children who have no clue how to use a knife and fork because they were brought up eating finger food. They were brought up eating hamburgers and chips and pizza, so they actually don't know how to use a knife and fork, which was one of the obvious things at the meal that I just went to. The people under 25 didn't know how to use it. It was an inexpensive hoity-toity place. I call it little food. And I don't think the kids wanted to be there, of course, because there wasn't very much food because it was expensive hoity-toity food. But they didn't know what to do with the cutlery. They didn't know what to do with the glasses. And when I watched them try and use a knife and fork, it was a bit like watching me trying to use chopsticks. It looked ridiculous. Now, maybe that doesn't matter, but are there consequences? If you go out with somebody as old as me or older, and you want them to employ you, pay you money, invest money in you, you want them to put you on a sporting team, into a dance environment, you want them to do something for you, because usually older people have more money, more life experience, they're looking to invest their money and time. Is it possible that they will be looking for, do you have good manners? Do you know how to use your knife and fork? I'm going to use something it's a really interesting thing that you may not know. Because I've been employing people for a very long time and I talk to employers almost every day, one of the things that employers look at are fingernails. If you've got bitten fingernails, if your nail polish is chipped, if you don't look after your fingernails, that's a classic sign of you're either stressed, or you don't care, or you are not self-respecting. So a lot of employers will look at your fingernails first, and if they're dirty or chipped, they won't even continue the conversation. They won't waste their time talking to you. Now, they're the things that younger people may never know. And this is an even more extreme example. I was looking to be do a professional speaking talk. I've been a professional speaker for a very long time. And they were looking at a group of speakers to put on a fantastic day of motivating, inspiring people to have a career or business that they love. And I was about 35, or I can't remember, around about that age. And I'm very aware of etiquette because I went to a private boarding school where if you didn't have good etiquette, you got wrapped over the knuckles with a ruler. But I went to that, basically it was an interview to be a professional speaker. And I'm going to add an extra side note. All of my professional speaking money has always gone to rescue animals or rescue puppy dogs, because that's what I do. I love looking after animals that aren't being looked after. So there was an opportunity for $5,000 to go to a rescue puppy dog facility if I did the talk. And I missed out on the talk because I had 2 earrings in my ears. Now, we now have piercings and tattoos and earrings nose rings and lip rings and forehead rings and eyebrow rings, and there's a whole heap of different things that people put onto their body. But the woman that was doing the interview was a very conservative Melbourne woman in Australia. And she said, we'd like to have Rowie, but she obviously doesn't understand etiquette because she's got 2 earrings. And they weren't dangly big plugs or anything. I had 1 pearl and 1 diamond. Tiny, tiny little earrings, but I had 2. Another very interesting example, very similar, I went to an event to talk, again, to be a speaker. And again, it was in Melbourne, a very conservative city in Australia, and I didn't wear stockings. Now, I had tanned legs. It was the middle of summer. I had a skirt on, but no stockings. And the reason I know why I didn't get these 2 gigs was because I always ask, you didn't choose me, why was that? And the first one was you had 2 earrings, and the second one was you came with you wore no stockings. That's bad etiquette. Now, I'm using those examples because you'll never know and you might not care. But a great philosophy in life I was taught a very long time ago, luckily, unfortunately not with these events that happened in my life. But if anything detracts from who you are, what you believe in, what your core values are, if people are looking at your legs, not listening to what you say, if people are looking at your cleavage, not looking at what you say, if people are looking at your earrings, your tattoos, your beard, your dirty shoes, your chipped fingernails, which takes away your advantage for any opportunity, it'll be very simple to fix that. If you're going for a career interview, very simple to do your nails. If you're going to an audition basically to be a professional speaker, check out who's going to be interviewing you, and I will never do that again. Obviously now I only have one earring and I always wear stockings if I go to anything in Melbourne, summer or winter. And I'm just sharing that with you because I don't want our kids, maybe they'll grow up in a world where none of that matters. But the act of personal relationship, and this is what has been really interesting for me in the last, and it's only been a little while, probably 12 months, where I've really noticed that kids don't listen. They're always on their phone. You can be talking to them and they don't pay attention. They don't look you in the eye when they're talking to you. I'm not sure that they know how anymore. I've spoken to school teachers who share with me that kids can't go out of their home or they can't go out on a date because their social media profile is so different from the person that they really are. I want to live in a world where people are kind to each other, they're respectful, they've got good manners. And that's just me as an old lady. But at my age, I want to live to 120 plus. So I'm really only halfway through my life. So I've still got a long way to go. And I would hate somebody to lose out on an opportunity because they don't know how to dress well, or they don't know how to use a knife and fork, or they don't know how to look somebody in the eye. They bring their phone to dinner and treat the people at the table disrespectfully. Now, as again, a very interesting side note, one of the young people that was at the last dinner I went to, who had no table manners, who had no personal etiquette, who had no communication skills, that person wants to go and become somebody famous. They want to go and work in an environment where people will be looking at their fingernails and will be looking at the way they communicate one-on-one. They will be looking at their respect and how they respect older people. And unfortunately, that person will not get employed, will not get the opportunities that they want because they have no skills to be able to do that. Now, who is that up to? Is it up to their parents? Is it up to their teacher? It's not up to me. I'm not their parent. But I just walked away from that dinner feeling really sad because that person, who's only very young, is going to miss out on a lot of opportunities unless they decide they're going to get good manners, they decide they're going to get good etiquette, learn what superb etiquette actually is, but most importantly, to respect people. And all of the adults over 25 that were at that table that day felt very disrespected. These people didn't know how to ask questions, they didn't know how to listen, they didn't know how to communicate effectively, they didn't know how to put their phone down. They certainly didn't know how to use a knife and fork. They didn't say please or thank you. Imagine going out for dinner and somebody else invests $100, $150 in you for your dinner and you don't even say thank you. I think that's not just rude, that's just really disrespectful, and it says a lot about the kind of person you are. So if you want to live your life to the max, could it be a really good idea to be a nice person, so that nothing ever holds you back? You don't lose opportunities because you're rude or because you're disrespectful. Could that be a good idea? What do you think, my puppy dogs who have to learn respect? I think they're all sleeping at the moment. Beautiful, beautiful puppy dogs who are respectful with good manners. Live your life to the max. Woohoo!